Welcome to the Happy Being Well podcast, where we talk about strategies and insights so you can live happy being well with your host, Rita Farruggia. This podcast is presented by happybeingwell.com, your online store providing the best in all natural wellness products, such as natural essential oils, all natural bath products, all natural facial masks, all natural deodorants, irresistible leggings, crystals, including crystal home decor and kitchen items, herbal teas, natural sleep aids, and so much more natural wellness goodies at happybeingwell.com. Free shipping on any order within the USA at happybeingwell.com. Now enjoy the show.
Hi guys, welcome to another exciting episode of Happy Being Well. And we have an exciting guest with us. I read her book over the weekend. I am so excited to explore this topic about how pain can be the doorway, the transformation, the catalyst to our transformation. I repeated transformation twice. So Darcey Steinke is our guest today. She has written This is the Door. She's an acclaimed author of Flash Count Diary and Suicide Blonde. In her forthcoming book, This is the Door, The Body, the Pain, and Faith, which explores pain as a doorway to understanding with 1/5 of Americans living in chronic pain and countless others enduring it in temporary or emotional forms. Steinke takes on a subject both universal and deeply personal, offering and a profound, illuminating, and personal exploration of pain's impact on the body, mind, and soul. And she's already received a glowing review from Elizabeth Gilbert. Elizabeth Gilbert, a part of her review, says, by tracing the history of her own body and spirit, as well as studying the suffering of others, Steinke shows us how physical pain and spiritual faith inform and influence each other. Am I pronouncing your last name correctly? I apologize.
No, it's okay. Darcey Steinke, that's right.
Yeah. Yes, great.
That's right.
Great.
That's right.
So I'm just really excited to take a deep dive, Darcey, with this book. There's so many aha moments that I discovered as I was reading your book. For one, as I was reading the beginning, you said that because you share your personal experience with pain, and then you also discuss, Frida Kahlo. I can't remember if I'm pronouncing her last name right. She's a famous artist in Mexico, and you explore her journey through pain. And for those of you who don't know who Frida is, maybe I can refresh your memory. There was a movie with Selma Hayek plays Frida, and the movie was called Frida. So for those of you that don't know who she is, she had a horrific accident where it left her basically bedridden, but she continued to be an artist, and she was a fascinating character and a very well-known artist. And Frida, you discuss her and her journey, and then you also highlight what their insights were in regards to spirituality going through that pain, which was interesting. And everyone's got a different insight. It's not exactly universal.
So true, yeah. Let's stay with Frida for a minute, because she's just such an amazing example. And I started my book with her because I felt like she's just this amazing person. Like you said, she had the a truck crashed into the bus that she was on when she was 18, and she cracked her spine in 4 places. She broke her pelvis. She shattered 3 ribs. She broke her collarbone, and then she was bedridden for about a year. And during that first year, her mother put up a mirror on the ceiling, and she started to paint herself. So her life is basically about self-portraits, and they're mostly self-portraits of herself in pain. And the really amazing thing that she did is that, and this is very unique in the history, to like art history, is that because she was able to show the reality of her body, like the reality of a female body, like a broken body, she sort of broke the male gaze that was all about sexuality, right? And like sexualizing women, right? So she's really an amazing artist, and she had about over 30 surgeries for her back. She never really got like a lot of relief. So she's someone who lived with chronic pain, but was also able to make something out of her pain. She made this like beautiful art that I think really connects to people. I mean, she's as recognizable as the Virgin Mary. You know, she's a really important figure, a really important figure.
Hmm. Yeah, I found that interesting, and then also you said something interesting as well while going through your experience of pain in your book. You said that in moments when you weren't feeling pain, where you had feelings of, peace and comfort, you would look for something to like, be stressed out about, and it's something that, if people actually observe, a lot of people can relate to this, that
Hmm.
we're so used to like living in a, something is wrong, there's a problem, or something is,
Right.
that we not comfortable feeling just peaceful and for too long. We have to go look for something to kind of get that adrenaline kick.
So true. Yeah. I mean, I think what you're referring to is I found a scientist who had studied the brain, like a neuroscientist, and he had said it's natural, like in like Darwinian selection, it's natural that our brain looks for things that are painful and stressful because that's like we survive because our ancestors were good at doing that. So it's very normal that we look for things that are painful and stressful, but in some ways we don't really need to do that anymore. You know, there are no saber-toothed tigers, and right, we need to have periods where we can be relaxed and we can be more at peace. But it's just kind of wired into us that we're going to look for painful things. Even if we're in periods of relative peace, we're going to our mind's going to search for something that's stressed out, you know.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a good point too, to be mindful of, so that when we do that, we can stop ourselves. Okay, no, I don't need to feel this. There's no, I don't need to engage, and I could just enjoy this moment of peace and
Mm-hmm.
tranquility, and maybe self-reflect or
Mm-hmm.
just rest my body and mind to recharge and renew.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so we're not addicted basically to chaos.
Mm-hmm.
So your book explores, so everybody, this book is so important because, everyone relates to it because, yeah, we all feel pain on some level, whether that's physical, emotional, mental, and we're always trying to make sense of it, or maybe we have this expectation that life is supposed to just be this rainbow filled with rainbows and sunshine. And then
Mm-hmm.
when pain comes, it's so jarring. It's like, why me? Right. And so your book kind of highlights global themes of, number one, pain as a teacher,
Mm-hmm.
empathy through shared pain, a healing and transformation, and faith in suffering.
Mm-hmm.
So I love pain as a teacher, reframing
Mm-hmm.
pain as a source of insight, self-discovery, and deeper understanding of the human experience.
Mm-hmm.
I've always held that belief that pain is supposed to teach us things.
Mm-hmm.
Either to me, it's like, it's physical pain. Like if you broke your arm, it hurts. That's a signal to, hey, stop moving your arm. You're going to further, hurt it, right? I've always
Mm-hmm.
thought of it as like kind of like a signal, like to
Mm-hmm.
kind of like bring to our attention, okay, something needs to be stopped in order to heal.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always used that as like, even for emotional pain,
Mm-hmm.
if
Right.
something is coming up and it's painful, whether it's something to do with the relationship or maybe, taking a new, whatever it is in your life that can trigger pain, maybe there's something to be explored there. Maybe it's a
Right. Yeah.
root.
Yes, I think that's true. I mean, before I go into this more, I do want to say that I know from, I interviewed over 100 people, and maybe 10 to 20% of them were in such bad pain that they really couldn't learn anything from it, right? I think sometimes pain is just so overwhelming, that they just couldn't, like they were suffering so intensely. It was hard, like it was almost rude to say that there were lessons from it, right? But I think that the thing about pain is that if you're in a manageable amount of pain, which everyone's going to be in at some point, and also after periods of great pain, right? I think that's where the expansion and the knowledge can come, I think that's really true. I think one of the best things that writing the book did for me, I had this like terrible back pain, which if you want me to talk about it, I can.
Yeah.
But is when I see people on the street now and I see them limping or they have mobility issues, I know that they just don't have mobility issues. I know that pain goes along with that, right? And I think before I wrote the book and talked to so many people, I didn't really realize that. I'd see people like struggling on the street and I think, oh, well, they have trouble getting around. But now I understand, like, pain is really common. I mean, both physical pain and of course, psychological pain as well, right?
Mhm. Yeah. Going through your physical pain, what has been your hardest lesson?
I mean, okay, so I had a herniated disc. Maybe this was 5 years ago now. Had terrible pain for a year, and they told me at first I should just do physical therapy. It was going to get better, and it just got worse and worse. And at the end of that year, I had successful back surgery, so I'm very lucky.
Hmm.
But during that year, I think, it was isolating. It was very isolating. I couldn't sit down or lay down during the day because, my problem was mechanical. So like when I stood up, my bone would rub on my nerve, and the pain would just be excruciating. So I would get up in the morning, and like a horse, I would just stand up all day long until I had to go to bed. I would collapse at like 10 o'clock. Um, so I don't know. I mean, it definitely, I would say it slowed me down, which I think was not necessarily negative. I remember just like staring for hours out, in the, to like to my backyard and watching the birds and learning the birds and all this kind of stuff. I think the hardest thing for the biggest struggle for me is I'm a person that's really, really on the move. I'm really active. I do open water swimming in the ocean. I do Pilates. Like I'm a writer. I live in Brooklyn. We have an amazing literary life here. So I go out to readings. I teach at Columbia. So it was really hard because really that stuff wasn't really possible. I was just in too much pain to really do those things. And if I even did them, there was no joy in them for me. I mean, it was that painful. It was really hard. But I thought the other thing I thought about that period was it was also sort of interesting. Like it wasn't just painful; it was also interesting. Not in my most severe times, because there were a couple mornings where I was in so much pain I had to go to the ER. So those were not interesting. That was just flat out horrible. But at other times there were times where I felt very fragmented due by the pain, very fragmented. But I also felt like pain has this way of pulling everything into itself. So it's this weird combination of fragmentation, but also a sense of a solid core as well. And I think that the pain sort of pushed me deeper into myself, which I think was kind of interesting. So yeah, there were definitely interesting things about somatically, that means like of the body. Like it was very like interesting to be in a body that was feeling those things that were, new to me. And so that, I have a lot of curiosity as a writer. Like you have to be curious about everything as a writer. And so at times it was so horrible that nothing could be learned, and that there were other times where there were, somatic details and cultural details and a sense of shared empathy that I did feel like a sense of expansion, and I was learning things.
That's interesting. It brings me to my next question. So do you believe we unconsciously cling to pain or even create it because it gives us identity or structure?
I mean, I'm very torn on this idea. I feel like in a way, I know I do meditate some, and I know you're not your anxiety, your anxiety is separate from you. I know all these things about ideas of clinging. I do think self-definition can be attached to the bad things that have happened to you. I think that's true. But I also think that, I don't know, but I also am kind of mixed on this. I mean, the thing I really don't like is I don't like when people blame people for their pain. I think that's really not great. Like, I think pain, like when someone's in pain, we should listen to them. We should hear about their suffering. We should encourage them to either get pain relief or also maybe, psychological relief from the pain in some ways. But I think blaming someone for having their pain from their thoughts is not a great idea. I just feel like that's kind of a dangerous idea. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the reason why I brought up identity in relation to pain is because when you're just explaining yourself a minute ago, you were saying that the pain kind of forced you to go into your body and kind
Hmm.
of connect more with yourself, or,
Right.
so, um, and I know I've never really been through the experience of like prolonged chronic pain like that.
Hmm.
But I would imagine I've definitely experienced like, self-reflection and moments of like, um, kind of hermiting. I just wanted being like kind of just withdrawing from the world, having
Right.
prolonged, and so it would force me to go inside myself and just because you're not, yeah, you're in pain, but you're not, you're not working, you're at home, you're healing. So it's in a way, it's kind of forcing you to self-reflect because you're not distracted mentally by
Yeah,
anything.
I think that's very true. I like the term hermiting. I've never heard of that before.
I
Did
just
you
I
make
just I just made that up.
did you make that up? Oh, it's
Yeah,
really good. Do you mind if I use it going forward? I
sure.
love it. It's kind of like adulting, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Well,
hermiting. Okay, that's great. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, I
I
had
think
a
I think I think solitude is important, I think I would prefer solitude without pain, of course, like I think most people would. But solitude for connecting with yourself, to figuring out what you want in this life, to doing deep work for your projects. I mean, solitude is key for all of these things. I mean,
yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So I'm
Um, Go ahead.
so I'm for hermiting anyway, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah, there were profound, insights I gathered, from my hermiting experience, and it just really, really allowed me to really self-reflect and light bulbs kind of go off
Mm,
in a realistic way without the ego interfering as much. Um, because you're hermiting, because there's no distractions, you're not really
uh-huh.
participating in the world where the ego, because when you participate in the world, the ego kind of surfaces a lot, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So when you're in solitude, I would say it doesn't as much,
Mm-hmm.
it's
Mm-hmm.
reduced a little because you're not
You're
amongst
less
other.
you're less performative, right?
Yes, yes,
Yes, yeah.
yes, yes.
So I also think that pain does have a leveling effect for sure. Like you can't worry about what you're wearing when you're in excruciating pain. Like you just can't. Like, right? Like it has a way of really making clear what's essential. Like pain does, like really attaching you to like what's actually essential, like the love of your friends and family, right? And like the work that you want to do. Um, that you want your body to be um, comfortable, right? Like
Mm.
you worry less about what others think of you, and you think more about your enjoyment of your body, right? Like, so
Yeah.
I think it's true, very true, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And also you mentioned, during your pain experience, it forced you to go in your body more and um, so you're more aware of your body. And a big proponent of being aware of, it's really difficult when you're not in pain to be very aware of your body
Mm-hmm.
because, again, we're busy lives, distracted. Do you feel that it's increased your intuition? Because a big part of being very intuitive is being tuned into your body, right?
I mean, I've always been very intuitive. I feel like, my husband is an investigative reporter, so he deals with facts, so and we used to always have these arguments where I would sort of make intuitive like proclamations, and he would say, "But you don't know that for sure." Oh, do you have a baby?
Yeah, I do. And his
Oh,
his Miss Rachel
where is
kind of
he?
he's right
Oh,
here.
it's so. Oh, wow!
Nicholas,
Hi,
say hi.
hi. How are you? What's going on? What's going on? What's your baby's name?
Nicholas.
Nicholas. Hey,
Nicholas.
Nicholas. Hey,
Yeah,
Nicholas. What
his
a sweetie.
His Rachel just turned off, so it's why
Oh,
he came to me and he's like, turn it back
oh.
on. So
And
that's
what
how
is a
I
what's a Rachel?
Miss Rachel's a popular
Oh,
kid
oh,
show.
okay. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. All right, great. Well, you're gonna get to
All
see it
right.
then. All right.
All right. Sorry. That was a brief little distraction.
No, I like it.
Okay, Nicholas, there you go. All right. So back on topic.
Okay.
Yeah, so you've always been intuitive, so it's hard for you to kind of measure
Oh yeah,
whether
yeah. So like I did pain make me more intuitive? I mean, I think the main thing, like I said, it did is made me more like maybe more intuitive about other people's suffering. Like,
yeah.
right? I mean, not so much like feelings I would have in my own life, but the idea of like really, having a strong sense of you're really listening to people and people who are in pain, and really sort of being like bearing witness to what's actually happening to them, rather than like forcing my own ideas on them. I think that was like really important thing that the book showed me.
Yeah. And how could someone in the midst of intense pain begin to shift from why is this happening to me to what might this be showing me?
I mean, I think this is really hard. I think in a part, like a part of me wants to just be like, um, I think people who are in intense pain need to be listened to, their fear and their suffering and their sorrow and stuff like that, right? And I think like being able to express that to loved ones is part of getting to that like second step that you're saying, right? Like I worry that sometimes people get too frustrated with people that are in pain and they want them like quickly to go someplace positive. But I think that's not really that helpful. I think the first step is definitely listening and really hearing what's going on with them, right? Um, but then I think sometimes it's like I said, I think sometimes it is like after the episodes of bad pain that you can think about, well, what just happened to me, and what did I learn from that, and what did I think was essential about my life, like what was I able to let go during that time. How do I want my future to be based on what I've learned from that experience, which is that, there's this essential thing to my body. I want to care for it. I have all these things I want to do before I have to leave this earth, right? Like I think those are the things. There's a way that it can really focus you, I think, and I think that is like that can be very important, I think. Um, but I mean, I don't know. I think I've did a lot of research on many kinds of pain therapy, both scientific and psychological, and I feel like it's hard. It's hard to move around. Like it's hard to move away from to move your mind away from painful incidents. You know what I mean? I mean, even like you think of childbirth, which I didn't have any drugs, so it was quite painful. But it was also quite joyous because it was fast, and then you get a baby. But I remember for it wasn't exactly trauma, but I remember for about a month to 2 months after, my mind would go back to that pain a lot too, and like my mind was focused on it, right? And it took a while for me, like time really, like it took a while for me to get away from that experience, to like the sort of like, I mean, it was such a powerful experience, but it was also such a painful one. And I think that's the thing about periods of pain, right? Is they can be very unpleasant, but they also have there's a lot of life energy and like humanity around them. I mean, it really expands our humanity to be someone who's suffering, right?
Yeah, and in the book you do bring up stuff in the kind of like in the beginning, like you talked about like how the body's forming, like how when the spine forms or bone
Yeah.
structure, like when we're becoming humans. And
Yeah.
that was kind of fascinating because like it seems like pain really is the natural element of evolution when you look at like I mean, I have a baby and his teeth are growing in and it's painful, and
Right. Yeah,
they're,
good point.
so it's like there's no really getting away from, you know, I mean, it's kind of embedded in nature.
Yeah,
Um,
I think that's right. I think that's really
yeah.
right. And it is good to sort of accept that, right? Like, I mean, I have a friend who does a lot of like, important like resistance work, and she always says like, if you get a little less focused on your own pain, you can become more focused on the pain in the world, like, right? And you can work toward those kind of issues too, like helping vulnerable people and whatnot. So I think there's something to that as well, right? Like, um, yeah, but pain, the spine, like we weren't meant to stand up straight. Our spines were made to be on all fours. So that's why our spines. I mean, that's why there's so much lower back problems because we just. I mean, basically, you think of yourself as this perfect human, and like here you are, but your body as it transformed, from a fish to a dog to like right, it was jerry rigged to do it. It wasn't like, oh, now we're gonna make this perfect thing. It was like, oh well, how can we kind of like make a four-legged spine into a one-legged spine? But it's never completed perfectly. So there's always a certain amount of like slippage and pain because of that. Like right, yeah. So I really agree with you. Yeah.
I never thought of that before. We weren't meant to perfectly be standing up as humans. I never thought of that before. That's a good point. And also, like, one of the most fascinating elements you discuss is heart transplant recipients reportedly experiencing memories from their donors. What does this suggest about where memory lives?
Yeah. I mean, this is, I want to make clear, this is like very like these I mean real scientists are studying this, but these papers have been published in places like called like speculative science. So this is very much just speculation. Like there's no way that we can know this for sure, and a lot of people don't believe this, right? But there are some scientists who believe. There was a scientist that was doing experiments on caterpillars turning into butterflies, and he was saying that the caterpillar completely dissolves in the chrysalis to make the butterfly, right? And like the brain dissolves, the nerves dissolve, to everything. But but the butterfly comes out knowing the same food sources as the caterpillar. So the scientist is asking, like, where do these memories exist? Where are they, like, in the body, right? Like, so yeah, there has been some speculation that that people who have had heart that there could be some cells in the heart and the body that carry memories as well. There's some speculation on that. It's not just in the brain that we lodge our memories, right? So there's been some speculation on that, but it's extremely kind of like niche science. I want to make that clear, that it's not something that a lot of people. I mean, it's weird because you hear these things sometimes and you think, oh, that makes sense, right? But then you don't know whether that's just a sort of like a human wonderment, or is it something that could actually be true, right? So it's hard to know.
I find it very fascinating that like, you get a heart from somebody and then you kind of inherit their
Yeah.
memories of certain like, obviously profound experiences that they've had that you
Yeah.
kind of inherit. I think that's a body part, and it's just
Yeah.
really, and I just
Yeah, there were some patients who were saying that they had no interest in music at all, but suddenly they were drawn to classical music, and they had gotten the heart of a young person who was studying classical music, like, right?
mm,
And then there's some more violent memories of like light near the face, and then that was the heart of a policeman had been shot, like, right? So there's like, there are these memories, but it's hard to know, but it does like open the question, like, like, I mean, in studying all these old, because I studied a lot of books from like 15, 16, 1700, and it was amazing the crazy ideas they had about the body,
yeah.
right? And so, but now we think, oh no, we know everything about the body now, right? But in 500 years, like, right? Or like 800 years, we're going to learn new things about the body, and then we're going to think it's crazy, possibly that people didn't think that, heart transplant people who didn't have memories, right? Like, so there's no way of really knowing like what's real and what's not, like, right? So it's tough. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just all on the evolution of our speculation in the moment or the time period. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I know. Yeah, in the book, yeah, you did cover that. You covered like the old beliefs from that time era going
Mm-hmm.
way back of like what people used to believe, and they were so outlandish.
Right.
I think there was one that cutting like cut if you're going through extreme pain, you should just be cutting your I think it's like cutting your knees or something like that, and then putting
Huh.
rosemary oil on your
Yeah.
forehead.
Yeah.
From I think
Well,
maybe it was a
yeah,
Tibetan something.
bloodletting was a big thing. I mean, bloodletting was a thing. I mean, they had so little to do. They didn't have penicillin and stuff. Yeah, before modern medicine, there was an idea that bloodletting was something that was was oh, is that like noise going to bother you? That's a snow blower outside my house. No?
No.
Okay. All right, good. It snowed 20 inches here yesterday. So
Oh.
it's crazy, yeah. To Brooklyn. I'm in Brooklyn. But where were we? I forgot. Sorry.
Oh, bloodletting. Just crazy
Like
ideas from the past.
there's the idea of the humors, and that was like, for hundreds of years, and that turned out to be not true. So there's just so much, so many people trying to figure out how the body works, and like the body is so complex and so nuanced, that like I'm sure my guess is we only know maybe like 20%, like really of what the body's doing. I think we don't completely understand like all the hormones, the chemicals. We don't really understand things like, we don't even really understand pain that well. It's only been in the last 20 years that people figured out that pain is made in the brain. That people have different levels of pain, because pain doesn't just come from you breaking your leg. The pain signal goes to your brain, and then the brain decides how much pain like what the pain level is. So it's real pain, but the brain is involved in it as well. So we've just learned that like recently. So there's just so much to still, learn about the body, its complexities.
Hmm. Yeah, and there was something that was really interesting that you highlight, and it was a research study showing that people who swear during pain actually release it more effectively than compared to others who didn't swear. So what
Yeah.
does this tell us about the connection between emotion and physical sensation?
Yeah, I love that. That was one of my favorite studies that I
Yeah.
read because it was just so
Yeah.
crazy. And I got to it partly because supposedly Frida Kahlo was really good at swearing. I'm not sure if you have friends, but I have some friends that are just like great swearers. And I sort of enjoy swearing at times as well. But yeah, there's something about those words and the fierce expression of them that is somehow comforting to the body and the mind, which is just so amazing. But it doesn't completely surprise me because there's also been studies that like how meditation can help pain, right? Like there's all these things that our bodies do, our minds do. Singing is also really great for pain, like, right? So pain reduction can come with a lot of things that the body can do, actually. I mean, not complete curing, of course, but like still but the idea of that just really, I don't know why it thrills me so much, to the idea that swearing is a pain reliever. I don't know. It just seems so human, like, right? It seems so human to me. I think that's why I like it.
Yeah. Well, when I
Yeah.
think of swearing, like using the F word or whatever,
Yeah.
it seems like it is kind of like a release of anger because it is
Yeah.
a word
Right.
attached to anger. And that essentially is what pain is.
Right.
I mean, when you're in pain, you're not feeling happy, right?
Right. Yeah. No,
So it does
exactly.
kind of feel
Exactly.
like a release
A letting
when I'm
go.
think, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Letting go. I think you're right. I think you're right.
yeah. You analyze the art and life of Frida Kahlo. I don't even, hopefully I'm
Kalo.
pronouncing Kahlo. Okay, there we go.
Kalo. Okay. Yeah.
Who endured unimaginable physical pain after her accident. What did you discover about her relationship to suffering?
I mean, I think she really had to get used to her suffering. I mean, she would say in her journals a lot. She would say, "Oh, the pain is bad, like after my last surgery. But the good thing is I'm getting used to it. Like,
Hmm.
it was pain that she resisted that was that was the hardest stuff for her to bear. And she was living at a time where the pain meds weren't great, right? So like, she had a lot of pain. So I think that, and also that art, I think art was a pain, like I think creative work and art and having a project like is a pain reliever. I mean, not only do I think it's a good way to spend your life is to have a project, like my writing projects, right? But really whatever kind of project you have, but the project of making art and going to her easel and doing work, even though she was in pain, it really helped her. I mean, not only helped her own body and gave her a sense of purpose, but also, I mean, the thing about making art, like whether it's writing or painting or making music, is it builds community.
Mm.
I mean, we're talking right now because I wrote a book, right?
Yeah.
And then people are going to hear this, right? So,
Mhm.
and that's going to build community, right? So the creative urge. I mean, it's great that we're creative, we express ourselves, but the real point of it is that it builds community between us. That it brings people together, right? And
Hmm.
that's an interesting thing I learned about pain. I think people's pain can be translated into art. I mean, I mean, maybe not all, but I would say the majority of creative work comes from pain. I know my own writing is definitely based on, like whether I'm writing novels or nonfiction book, it's based on painful experiences that I want to explore, and I think people would say that about like musicians and painters and whatever. So like the idea that in wanting to explore your own pain and share it, you build community, like you can build empathy in our world, and that's like a really beautiful thing.
Another thing I found fascinating with Frida is that ultimately she concluded that there was no God or spiritual afterlife because she felt she would have sensed it during her intense pain. How did sitting with her perspective affect your own relationship with faith?
I mean, I think that's really interesting, right? That some people think, and I think I did find that, like in my interviews, I guess I probably thought, I'm a minister's daughter and I have a very, very paradoxical like relationship to faith in general. But I guess I thought when I was interviewing these people that were in real pain, like a lot of them would have turned to faith, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I found that a lot of them had different things, like coping things, like we talked about creativity, we talked about their love of music, we talked about nature, but a lot of them ended up turning away from like conventional faith to their time of pain. You know, just realizing that it was one of the things, you know, pain, like I said, it really focused you on what's real, right? And pain had really made them turn away from whether it was like conventional Catholicism or whatever, which really fascinated me. I didn't expect to find that, you know. As far as my own faith, it's a complicated like subject. You know, I'm a minister's daughter, but my father was very progressive. You know, he's dead now, but he worked for, you know, he was against the Vietnam War. In New York City here, he ran like an AIDS group, like at the Gay Men's Health Crisis Center during that period. I remember when he went down to Occupy Wall Street at Zuccotti Park, he was so angry that the local Episcopal church wasn't letting the protesters like use their bathroom, you know. He would say to me like, "What's the church for?" You know. So he had a very active progressive faith. I've been traditionally frustrated that like there's like church over here and then there's your rest of your life. I find that to be not really a good model. I mean, I find that my life itself has lots of wonder and grace and beauty in it that seems kind of like, if not religious, then metaphysical, like, right? So I've been traditionally kind of frustrated with traditional conventional ideas of like the way faith works. So yeah, and I have a faith mostly now that kind of is based on reading and thinking and having ideas. I have quite a few friends I talk about theology with. I write books that have to do with like trying to figure this out, like I just did, like with This Is the Door. So it's really about, you know, I'll have a period where I'll read some of the transcendentalists, you know, and then I'll read about their lives, you know, and then I'll have a period where I'll read about like the heroes of the civil rights movement. You know, that was a very fascinating time for me since so many of the leaders there were ministers, right? And they had like a strong like religious grid. But I tend to be interested in periods where God is like the idea of God is changing. You know, it's not static, and where there's movement and acts attached to it, not just like saying prayers in church. You know, I tend to be interested in things that are more dynamic, you know. And then I'd say most recently, like I've been interested in trying to figure out if like, you know, I feel like humans are very insecure in a way. Like I feel like, why are our most transcendent moments like considered supernatural? Like right? Like why couldn't they just be considered human? Like, right? Like is there a way that like our humanity could be, like the beauty and the sacredness of our humanity could be like a, you know, like the center of everything, not some like supernatural being in the sky. So that's kind of where I'm at the moment, you know.
Well, I think my opinion is, I think humans are so like excited or always about the supernatural or whatever. I think because we're limited, you know, we're vulnerable to death and, you know, accidents, and our time here, our living in terms of this physical body here on Earth is limited. You know, it's not like we're
For
here
sure.
forever to.
Yeah.
I mean, if we were able to like study, you know, have more years of study and more years of
Mm.
exploring to like get
Mm.
more and more advanced as one
Right.
individual that
Right.
could contribute to the rest of the collective. But we're not, and we're always passing the torch to the other human to continue that study that was left over, or you know, maybe it gets abandoned. You know,
Mm.
it's like it's just. I think it's just of our limitations. I think kind of propels us to kind of be more drawn into the supernatural, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I can understand why it happens, and even you know, I'm susceptible to it, of course, but like, because I think everybody has, like, to me, people have a metaphysical urge. You know what I mean? It could be a religious urge, but it could be worked out in other ways too, like feeling a heightened sense of nature, or like whatever. Like there's different ways to work it out, right? But I think that we don't really know, you know, like, you know, so that, I mean, my feeling is kind of the door of mystery. I mean, the door on mystery has to stay open, even though we don't really know what that mystery is. You know what I mean? So that's I have a healthy respect for it all, but I can't say that there's any absolutes at all, you know.
Yeah, yeah, I know. It's interesting. I mean, it's always interesting going exploring what other great minds of the past, like Frida, and you brought up Nietzsche in your book as
Yeah,
well. And there is really not exactly a universal thread, there's different takes. So it's interesting. Um,
I mean Nietzsche.
so
Nietzsche's really interesting in that he's like he was a Lutheran minister's son, just like I was a Lutheran minister's daughter, right? And he basically staged the most successful assault on Christianity that's ever happened, you know. But I think he's very misunderstood. I think his ideas are closer to the things I'm saying. Like even people make fun of the idea of the super ego, the superhuman that he talked about, you know, like the Superman. But it really wasn't about narcissism. It was really about that the human can be like, what if the human was all like right? Like what if human experience was beautiful and amazing enough that we wouldn't need to have theism, like we wouldn't need to have a single God, right? Right. So I think there's some interesting ideas there for sure, you know.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice if the human experience was, just all like kind of like a unality of just like bliss and
Mm.
happiness at all
Yeah,
times.
that's not it though. That's not how it
Right?
is. Yeah.
So it does seem like, it is a duality where
Oh, sorry.
is everything okay?
A branch just broke on my tree. Shit. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
It's snowing so much. I have a magnolia in the yard.
Oh.
All right, so let's finish up. I'll have to run out there.
Okay, okay.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
No rush. Didn't go till 2 still. I can't do anything about the branch, you know.
Yeah. Do you think allowing raw, uncensored expression is a part of healing?
You mean like in creativity?
Yeah, in whatever expression that is, whether that's creative.
I think like expressing yourselves is key. You gotta like, I got this really, I teach, you know, and I got this like after my class last semester, this student came up and was a graduate student, and he said he gave me the best compliment I've ever got, like about my teaching that I've ever received. He said, "You seem really free in the classroom," and I really love that. Like I felt like, because that is my goal, you know, is be able to express myself, to move ideas around, not to feel bracketed, you know. And to me anyway, that's really important. I think that's really important, is to be able to like have a sense to. And also I think my interest in religion, like my interest in faith, is really about freedom, you know, about trying to make myself more free. I'm interested in movements where people were trying to make themselves more free. You know, I think freedom is really important. People don't talk about religion and freedom enough, really, because there's so much stress on, rules and all these kind of things. But that's not my idea of religion. My idea of religion is to make yourself more free, you know.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, so where do you see science and spirituality intersecting most meaningful in the study of pain?
Well, there isn't a lot, you know. There was somebody that studied meditation and prayer on pain, and they talked about its positive effects. Like I know there's studies on that. But there's not a lot of, one of the problems with modern medicine is it's really just about modern medicine. It doesn't always, I think there's amazing things happen. I've had some incredible doctors, you know, I've had some terrible doctors too, but I think it doesn't always take into account the full human. You know, that the human has a metaphysical side, they have emotions, that, they have so much more than just the technique of the operation, like, right? And also healing is so much more complicated than just healing, like, right? When I was coming out of my back surgery, it was COVID, but I had to do PT for a while, but also the fear of the pain coming back was intense. You know, I had to go to therapy for that because I just couldn't get over the worry that I was going to be debilitated again, right? Like, so the healing, for me, healing was not just like physical, but psychological healing as well, right? And then also getting back to some of the things I love, and like, you know, it's a very big process, healing. It's not just about the wound closing over, right? So I feel like that's something that we could have. It's hard. The medical world is clearly struggling, right? Like, so yeah, so it's tough. It's tough to think about how this would how all this would happen. It's funny because recently I never watched ER the first time, but I've been watching it. I think it's in part because because I know about the body more, so I like to see to all the things happening. But I think I really like it that nice people are trying to help other wounded people. There's something that's like very satisfying, like for me in that, and that it almost seems spiritual to me. Like it seems spiritual that these people are actually helping other people's bodies. That seems very beautiful to me, Yeah.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
beautiful. It is. That is maybe that's another like way or maybe a catalyst to the human connection or the human condition or
Yeah,
evolution
right.
is like coming together to maybe, yeah, like you said, shared empathy and to really increase our love and compassion towards others. And also too, like what you're doing, it increases our insight into the human condition as
Ooh,
well and
yeah.
how we process things. Is
That's so
so,
important, yeah.
hmm
And you
uh,
too.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Um, your own back surgery is a vulnerable part of this book. Looking back, was there a moment when you felt transformed rather than just treated?
I mean, I had a wonderful relationship with my surgeon, which I'm sure you read about, like Dr. Katsura, who was just an amazing person. Um, and his care of me was beyond just the surgery. Like he called me every Friday for a month beforehand. He was telling me very intimate things like how to prepare my body, the mercurochrome, the way I had to wash. And then afterwards, he called me every Friday for a month as well. So it was like I felt very cared for by him. I haven't had many surgeries, but I've had a few. And Dr. Katsura came to my bedside after the surgery, not once, but 3 times over the day. The surgery was done very early in the morning. And just for him to come see me in the OR was amazing. To come see me, to come and see me, see how I was doing, how I was feeling, talk to me. Because I've had surgeries where the doctor's not shown up. You know what I mean? Like I just kind of sit there miserably. It's like, so the care he gave me was very transformative for me. Like not just that the surgery was successful, but the care he took with me as a person, was very meaningful for me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Not a lot of doctors do that. That's so,
Yeah.
yeah, they're really lucky to experience that. If someone listening right now is in the depths of suffering, what would you want them to remember?
Well, I would first say that you're not alone. Like many people all through history have suffered from pain, and there's many people suffering now. So you're not really alone. Like you may feel alone, but you're not really alone. And then I would say that I think I felt when I was in pain that what I was going through was worthless, kind of in a way, that it was something that the culture didn't care about. So I would say that what you're going through is meaningful and it's really deep, right? And you shouldn't just discount it. You should try to get out from under your pain. I totally agree with that. I don't believe in suffering for suffering's sake, and you should try that. But also beyond that, what's happening to you is not just physical; it's metaphysical as well. And so something really important is happening to your body. I think those are the main things that I would say. Yeah, and that I have the quote in the book that Dostoevsky said, his one worry was how would he be worthy of his suffering. And so the idea of what you do with your life, the bad things in your life as well as the good things, right? That's an important part of the human project, right? How can you find healing and regeneration and movement in these bad things that have happened. I think that's a thing to think about too. That it may not be in the worst of your suffering, but at some point, when you're thinking about what happened to you, right? I think that's important. It's meaningful.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's meaningful.
Yeah.
I think that's the main thing. It's very meaningful.
Yeah, I think that's the most important thing to highlight is it's meaningful. And I think
Yeah.
that's what we're all always looking for in life is what's the meaning of this? What's the meaning?
Right.
What surprised you the most in the process of researching and writing This Is the Door?
I guess I was surprised, it's not really one thing in a way. It's when I worked at these really beautiful rare book room libraries, the New York the New York Medical Academy libraries. It's like a Harry Potter set. Like, it's so beautiful. Some of the books are from 1100. These big leather-bound books, the very first books that were ever made. And I was really surprised as I did research there. I researched there on and off I tried to go once a week for like 3 or 4 years, and I was really surprised that I started to feel I started to get a real sense of historical suffering, all the case studies. I would read about people from the Roman period and from the Renaissance, and I remember specifically, I think I read about in the book that a rash that a pregnant woman had during the Renaissance and how she was treated. And I remember really thinking about that, wow, this was a living body that suffered, and I'm sort of connecting, and I'm all this time passed, but I'm still sort of connecting and having empathy for her, even though she's long gone, right? So the idea that human suffering is a chain in a way, right? It's a chain, we've all experienced. It starts from basically the beginning of time, right? It's going to go into the future as well, right? So the idea that that's something that kind of joins us to history, that was something that I didn't expect to feel, and a really amazing, very powerful feeling, kind of the bodies that were the living bodies that were underneath, the historical living bodies that were underneath the text I were reading. That was something that really surprised me, and it was very interesting, really interesting,
Yeah, I can only imagine. I'm just picturing it right now. I would feel the same way, reading that too. It's it's just really eye-opening. And whenever I hear anything what happened in history, actually recently I went to the Getty Villa out in Los Angeles, and looking at some of even just the artifacts there and how things were sculpted and made, it's always oh my God, everything is so in detail. And these are stuff from 1500 AD or BC,
Right.
such a long time ago. And yet it's very sophisticated and detailed,
Right. Yeah.
the earlier humans, right? So we
Yeah.
always think
Yeah.
that they're like Neanderthals or something from that time,
No,
but it's
it's
some of the stuff
completely
that I
untrue.
saw was more detailed than stuff that I see today in terms
Yeah.
of, you
No,
know,
they weren't I had a history professor once that said to me, just because they didn't have TVs doesn't mean they were dumb. Right? I mean,
yeah.
the cultures and the cultural knowledge. I mean, a lot of it's lost, right? If it's very old, but oh my gosh, no, there were so many smart people, so many empathetic people, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. So history is
Yeah.
always good to look at to kind of understand the present. So finally, how has exploring pain changed the way you experience joy?
Well, that's a good question. I think that the experience of my back, I remember thinking when I was in my worst back pain, I used to think to myself, if I can get out from under this, I'll never be sad again, right? I'll be filled with joy. And definitely for the first 6 months or so after my surgery, I mean, I was worried the pain was going to come back, but I was really happy not to be in pain, right? But then, of course, life's little worries come in, and you start to have all your nagging things and stuff. But I do think since that's happened to me, I feel like I'm a little less uptight. I'm like, okay, so what? The cake didn't work out, right? It fell, or this got canceled. Big deal. I feel like I'm a little more less tied to this. It has to happen this way. I also think that I'm can experience joy and wonder more. I feel like I can see I sort of see wonder and joy out in the world many times a day. I think that one of the wonderful things about living in Brooklyn and New York City is you have a lot of really wonderful interactions with strangers. Right? You help them, they help you. You might have a moment with their dog, their little kid in their stroller waves at you, right? You have a lot of really nice small moments, and that has given me a lot. As I've gotten older, my long-term relationships are important too, but that's been very important to me too. Just the sort of feeling of being a part of humanity, right? And having I have goodwill toward people I don't even know, and they have goodwill toward me, right? That's very beautiful. So I think many of these things have come about because of the period of pain. I think the idea of just being a more permeable person,
Yeah.
with less of a shell, right? I think I'm a more permeable person that can let joy in, let emotions in, right? Let even hardships in, have empathy for others. You know what I mean? Those kind of things. I feel like I'm I'm better at that. I also think I have a stronger sense of my mortality, which has helped me to be like, how much time do I have left? You know, what, I mean, I hope to have like 30 years left, but like, what do I want to do? You know, I think part of the reason I decided, like, I have always swam in pools, when I'm in the, when I'm upstate in the country, I'll swim in lakes or rivers, but I'd never swim in the ocean, for, like open water swimming, like for like an hour or whatever. So I got trained to do that. And I've been doing that right, like, the subway is like 20 minutes from my house. I can be at the beach at Brighton Beach, which is so, like, just a beautiful experience. So things like that, too. Things like you better start doing these things now, that you wanted to do that bring you joy, So, that, like, those are things I've thought about as well. Like, yeah, so.
Love that. Your shell gets reduced. I love that point. And you're more aware of mortality. I think that's some, an easy trap for a lot of people including myself, I've experienced at times. We forget that, we have an expiration date, and we fall into a trap that, because we live very structured lives, whether you're going to school every day or whether you're going to work every day, and days kind of look the same. I mean, some of it a little bit different. So you fall in a trap, but it's just going to continue and continue. And you don't like stop and think like, how more meaningful can I make my time here? It is.
I think that's a huge thing. I mean, I really think that, that's, if I have like a religion, that's it. Like, how can I make my everyday, how can I bring like ritual, sacredness, joy to my everyday life? How can I really make it really meaningful? Yeah.
Well, this has been a fascinating conversation, Darcey. I loved every single minute of it, and your book is amazing. It's really eye-opening, and you really do take a deep dive. So I encourage everybody to buy the book. It's everywhere, at all bookstores, online, Barnes & Noble, Amazon. Darcey, do you have a website people can also purchase the book on?
I don't have a website at the moment, but I do have, I think at my publisher, Harper One, they have a page for me to go and look there. But yeah, it's everywhere online. I like the independent bookstores, so I like bookshop.org, but you can get it anywhere. And it's going to be, it launches on the 24th, which is next Tuesday. So after that, it should be in all the bookstores as well.
Okay. And so the book, again, everybody, is called This is the Door, The Body, Pain, and Faith by Darcey Steinke. And I enjoyed reading it, guys, so I highly encourage you to go buy it. And thank you so much, Darcey, for coming on the Happy Being Well podcast. Well, I hope you have an enjoyable rest of your day.
Yes. Have a good afternoon with your your beautiful little son.
Thank you. Okay. All right.
See you.
Bye. See you. Bye.
Okay, bye. Bye.
If you learned something new or were inspired to live happy being well, please be sure to subscribe to the Happy Being Well podcast so you don't miss an upcoming episode. Also, please feel free to leave a 5-star review, including what you learned or what inspired you in today's episode. This podcast is presented by happybeingwell.com, your online store for natural wellness products, so you can live happy being well. Order your next all-natural essential oil, all-natural face mask, all-natural bath soap, all-natural deodorant, herbal tea, crystals including crystal home decor and kitchen items, irresistible leggings, and much more at happybeingwell.com. Free shipping on all orders within the USA.